Okay, good morning, everyone. I think we're going to get started now. So welcome everybody to today's webinar, which places a digital lens on the importance of client centricity in B2B companies. My name is Lorenzo Versini. I look after growth globally for ORM and a number of other agencies within the Paragon business. Thank you, firstly, for taking time out of your busy days, locked up at home, probably homeschooling your kids, generally adapting to this rather strange environment we find ourselves in. But you'll be pleased to know that that is the first and the last reference I'll be making to the invisible monster stalking our lives, economies. So let's press on. So client centricity is becoming a hot topic in the B2B world. Companies know they need to adapt to the needs and deliver experiences that are more personal, relevant, and valuable to remain competitive. But I think whilst few of us would argue with client centricity as an ambition, it can actually mean different things to different people and different business units. And delivering on initiatives that drive value for the business and the customer can be a real challenge, requiring collaboration across many business units and functional teams. So, where are we? Sorry. So today we're going to take a whistle-stop tour through client centricity, what it means and the benefits, how digital is a valuable component, and more specifically, how technology, data, and content can help drive this agenda through the business. And of course, as always, we'll leave you with a few concrete actions you can take back to your homes to help you move forward. So firstly, let's just take a minute to think about what client centricity is and what it isn't. So we believe that it's more customer-focused services, it's less silos between departments, improved access to your business, understanding your client's business challenges, rewarding loyalty, and remembering preferences for easier interaction. And I think for a lot of us that work in B2B service companies, it isn't being a one-stop shop and doing whatever the customers want. Those days are long gone, I'm afraid. This is about providing value for your clients across the interactions that they're having with you as a business. So what are the benefits to becoming more client-centric? Well, we think there's, broadly speaking, 5 core benefits. There's increasing profits. So client-centric companies are 60% more profitable in professional services industry. Focusing on the client in this industry means not only providing quality services, but also a superior experience from the point of contact with the customer, passing through the sales process and ending with the delivery process of the contracted services. And this comes from a source which is AMCHAM, and you can grab the sources after the webinar if you like. But I think this is really important. This is driving service across the business, making sure that the work delivered, that the interactions that they're having with you across the company are stronger. And this starts to lead to stronger relationships. So according to Accenture, 75% of customers are more likely to buy from a brand that knows them. So if a brand knows the customer name, purchase history, and can recommend products based on those purchases, they are more likely to buy from that brand. And crucially, they're happy for their data to be shared for this purpose. Then you have cross-sell opportunities. So a higher market penetration gives the ability to recommend new products and services to existing clients and to sell existing products and services to new prospects and target groups. So by combining service offerings and integrating departments to cross-sell an opportunity within your business, you'll get 5 times up to more revenue from that client. And this is from Harvard Business Review. Then we've got the all-important, particularly in the current business environment, more new business wins. So we're talking about hyper-relevant propositions here. 74% of B2B execs, again, according to Accenture, believe this will increase sales for businesses. So the goal of hyper-relevance among B2B companies is to have such a keen understanding of their customers' fast-changing needs and preferences that they can continually and proactively deliver innovative solutions, services, and experiences that business customers value. And then finally, we think about a more effective workforce. So companies that actually invest in employee experience are 4.2 times more profitable than those that don't. And the theory here is that engaged employees are way more likely to create a superior customer experience and go above and beyond, which translate to the work outputs and generate more business. And again, this one comes from Forbes. So we talk about technology, data, and content being crucial to deliver these benefits. And there's we think there's broadly 4 areas that support those 5 benefits. Because these to achieve those benefits, you need robust processes underneath. So we're talking here around gaining more customer intelligence. So this is about being in tune with your customers and collecting data entry on them, willingly, of course, so that you can better predict their future intentions. And then thinking about how you can use personalization and automation to drive leads. So this is about remembering your prospects' preferences for easier interaction and not serving them the same content ad or landing page every time they come onto your website. Progressive profiling is a good way to do this by asking for a little bit more information each time they come onto your site. And remember that 75% of customers are more likely to buy from a brand they know, and that really seems to know them. And once you start automating the basics, you can get into some of the more valuable analytics work. And then we talk about understanding prospects through the data collected. This means you're not just collecting data for data's sake, but you're really using that information to drive your activity forwards, like creating customer journeys based on specific profile types and serving those prospects engaging and tailored content. And then finally, we look at increasing brand engagement by promoting expertise through thought leadership. So this is about cutting through the noise and putting your business ahead of the competition. If your target audience are C-level execs, ensure the content you're providing is suited to their needs and focus on their challenges and delivered in a way that's easily accessible to them, i.e. it's not hidden behind 20 forms. Your job is to deliver value and figure out who's reading it and why. Now, what we've got here really are just some of the tools and some of the ways to make your B2B business become a lead generation machine. So by focusing on client needs and wants, which in turn makes you more client-centric. Now, granted, look, these are quite tactical, but by being proactive and using things like chatbots, personalized homepages, newsletter signups, predictive search, bookmark functionality, and personalized videos/demos, you'll be able to understand more prospects in detail with the data that they should willingly give you when signing up for these options on the understanding that you are delivering value in the exchange. I mean, the best companies in the world at this kind of stuff are really the B2B tech companies like Salesforce. I mean, Salesforce's content library and YouTube is just endless and very valuable. Adobe are great at this too. And no surprises, of course, HubSpot, who basically are the king of personalization and marketing automation. But these companies are digitally native, so it's not hard for them to implement the right technology to make this stuff real. It's about using data to understand prospect behavior and their intention. So what you're seeing here is an admin view of what your marketing activity could be delivering, and is again bringing it back to data by creating engagement scoring, which eventually will turn into SQLs or sales qualified leads. And again, we're tying together in data and technology here. So I think this is really important, getting into this level of detail when you're trying to drive a lead generation machine, starting to attribute values to certain behaviors on your website or your communications so that you can start to deal with the prospects that are more likely to want to do business with you based on what they're doing with you at a particular time. But of course, The right tools really are not going to do a lot for you without the right content engagement strategy. Because if they're not tied to business and content strategy, i.e. who are you doing business with and what are they looking for your help with? So, 45% of B2B executives believe that their business lack the necessary digital technology. Now, the reality is, I think there's a lot of execs in large corporates are very quick to think that technology is the problem. But in a lot of those cases, I think really what they miss is a strategy that then needs technology to enable it. And then there's 1 in 5 B2B executives admit that their customer doesn't trust them to handle their data. So we have to work harder to gain that trust, both digitally and in the real world, by being relevant and timely and adding value. And then lastly, $1.3 trillion was spent on digital transformation projects in 2019, with 900 billion of this apparently going to waste. And this is because mostly digital technologies provide possibilities for business growth, efficiency gains, and customer intimacy. But if you don't have the right strategy in place and are not being client-centric with your activity, then the business is flawed. So once we're confident in our strategy, then we can go ahead and choose the right tools, earn the trust of your audience to give you their data, and plan for how to use that tech to make it effective. Technology and data won't solve the problem. They're just part of the puzzle. So why is content so important when it comes to being more client-centric? Well, if you can harness thought leadership to engage with your audiences, you will be able to build better relationships with them, which will in turn make them more likely to do business with you. So we're going to take a bit of time now and just talk through how C-level execs view B2B content and thought leadership. We'll look at the topics that they're concerned with, and then we'll jump into a bit more around how you might be able to use those topics to your advantage. And then we'll end up with a customer journey that illustrates how everything can come together. So this slide really is demonstrating the importance of thought leadership to the C-suite. So they are time poor. They're all struggling to keep up, as we all are in our jobs, if we're honest. And I've kind of highlighted a few of these, but feel free to read them as you go. I know I'll be talking over and you'll probably read anyway. But 69% of C-suites concerned about the number of new mission critical issues that they've never experienced before. And I think this is as a result of the disruptive forces in the market at the moment. So execs, they're seeing things and encountering problems, particularly like the ones that we are all facing now. There is no rule book that prepares you for what's occurring at the moment. So these people don't have a lot of time. And they want to engage with thought leadership, not sales content. It's very easy to spot sales content versus thought leadership. These people don't spend much more than an hour a week with vendors. And 58% of the decision makers say they choose a business based on their thought leadership. I think what's interesting about this is if you've got a great top of funnel process in your businesses, but actually your thought leadership is subpar, then there's a good chance that you're going to lose deals because of your thought leadership, not your top of funnel sales activity, because it's further down the funnel that people start to really look into the opinions and the points of view that your business is having on their business and market. They are open to content from experts. So 48% of C-suite believe that professional services and consultancies create the most valuable content. Now, this is, I think, let me have a look at the stat here. This is from KPMG, and only general business publications and news media score higher here. So there is an opportunity to take advantage there. And thought leadership must be topical, relevant, and scientific. So I think the important one here is that they prefer content that takes a bold, contrarian, or provocative view. Again, we're seeing at the moment, how many people are sharing how to work from home, what COVID-19 is going to mean to us, piggybacking on other people's ideas. This stuff very quickly gets lost in a sea of mediocrity. So you've got to take a bold view in situations. Then, of course, you're talking about how do they consume the content? Well, they want multiple forms and media types. There's a lot of activity. 80% of execs are watching more video now to find out more about their vendors. They're consuming thought leadership before work in the office, and 58% are consuming thought leadership on the commute. So, of course, that means mobile and tablet forms are preferred. And then lastly, there's a couple of stats in here, but one that I think is really interesting is that C-level execs will, over 50% of them will search for these pieces of information and the vendors themselves. Now, they won't do it all themselves, but they will start that process. So it's really important that we invest in the right kind of content that speaks to those people. So then if we step into the next level down, so what do business leaders really care about? So this glorious chart, actually, I love this one. It's taken from the Times and Longitude survey of 1,000 CEOs last year. And the chart moves essentially left to right in terms of perceived importance by functional business unit. There's no surprises here, really, that if you look into it, that growth, customer service, investments and sales and marketing are the primary concern for the CEOs. But as a digital consultancy, we're very pleased to see that digital services are a high priority. Now, granted, it's the technology team that are concerning themselves with that, but that's largely because the business recognises that digital services will power future growth and new business models for their businesses. So I think this is a really important slide for people to refer back to when they're thinking about creating thought leadership for their audience. But this is really, this is the macro. So these are the topics that people are concerned with, broadly speaking, in those industries. And actually what we've got to get to is from the macro into the micro business challenges that your audience face. And there's a bit of a process to get to that. So this is our content acquisition plan, and it's broken broadly into 3 phases. You've got consultancy that tackles the strategy element, from keyword research to see which topics your audience are actually searching for, to your amplification plan, to keyword mapping and content seeding. And I think just a bit of an anecdote in this section. There was a great article that an SEO agency circulated, I think at the end of last week, around the intention of search at the moment for consumers, and it was an incredible piece of insight. He had 18 senior SEO leaders on a call, I think last Tuesday morning. He shared the content, and it was so insightful on what people were searching for specifically in particular industries. And I'm sure that piece of content did help people respond to the unfolding situation. And then once you're confident in your approach, you can start to translate this into information architecture, page designs, SEO, and copy. And then you can start to amplify your content via whether it's on-site promos, linking to your social strategy, and of course, the oft forgotten email marketing support. And then finally, it's time to analyze and iterate on your strategy and tactics. And that's really how you think about content in the micro. So our key recommendations really are to develop a thought leadership ecosystem. And this is about developing the right content. So we're talking about thematic content that's curated around a thought leadership program that is pushed at key moments in the working week. So this is the right time. And then thinking about the website as the hub for further research, but also think about how you're going to acquire the C-suite off-site, because we know that they are very active particularly on LinkedIn, but other social as well. So have a think very carefully about how you create this ecosystem. So over the next few slides, so now we've heard about what people are interested in and how we might be able to think about creating the right kind of content engagement. And now we're going to talk through really an imaginative journey for Erica. So where is Erica at in the journey? So she is concerned that the latest reports are showing that her business is losing market share to new entrants. And they're using new technology and products to their advantage. So she's looking for insights on how others are countering these moves and specifically improving their customer service performance via digital. So we've already seen that over 50% of execs start their own research, and they start work early, because here Erica is deciding to conduct some quick research on the way customer service is being transformed in the utilities sector. She lands on a dedicated landing page for the topic and discovers long form articles on the latest smart home consumer research and bookmarks them for later reading. Now, she's not familiar with this business's offering, so she shares the article with her team members and instructs them to conduct further research, which really starts to show how collaborative decision-making is now and how important universal sharing options are for any content that you're proposing. Then later on, so during her journey home, she reads the articles that she bookmarked earlier, and she decides to find out more about the author of the articles, because she wants to understand who's sitting behind these articles. Are they credible? So at 6:45, she visits the author's LinkedIn page and reads, in this case, his profile. She also scans a collection of his other articles and adds him to her network. And then when she's home, she returns to the Content Hub and notices 2 new pieces of suggested content and decides to read a new white paper. She has to sign up and create an account to access new content, which by now she's comfortable doing because she feels she's got decent value and that the content is worth the exchange of her data at this point. And then a couple of weeks go by, and her team lead mails her with a competitor comparison where the report is indeed favourable for the company that she's looking at. And she receives her weekly digest email, which includes a new article from her LinkedIn connection. At 9:15, she likes the article and messages the author stating that she'd be interested in talking with someone about helping her needs. Around 12:30, Erica is then referred to the customer acquisition and retention lead and is alerted via her account with some times for an initial exploratory call. So I think what we're seeing here is a really nice fluid journey, and it illustrates how C-suite execs are leveraging multiple channels, are engaging with content in different ways, are bringing in team members, and it really shows that we have to think about an ecosystem, because that's the only way you're going to be able to engage with these people in the levels that they want to, where they're ready to. So we're approaching the end of our whistle-stop tour, as I said. So we're going to leave you with some takeaways here, and that's 7 easy steps. I did that deliberately just for repetition, because it's really important. It's not a typo, to becoming more client-centric. So I'd say have a think about, have you mapped the digital content that you have to your audiences? Are you making sure that you're saying the right things to the right audience? And have you mapped this content to the customer lifecycle? So are you thinking about where you should be using long form content versus where they should be more snackable forms of content that are going to be digested in different environments? And do you recognize prospects and customers when they return to your site? It's pretty basic, but it's important. Are you automating personalization, which again is going to free you up to do more valuable things? And are you keeping a record of interactions with customers? Importantly, do your sales and marketing teams communicate with each other? This is one of the biggest challenges at the moment to deliver a more client-centric proposition. And finally, do you have a content acquisition plan? Do you know how you're going to get into the micro once you believe, broadly speaking, you know what your C-suite execs want? So if you've answered yes to some, but not to all of these, then congratulations, you are well on your way. If you answered yes to all of these, then high fives, you're probably a digital leader using content to drive client centricity throughout your business. And if you answered no to most of these, then please get in touch with us. Our contact details are going to be available through this webinar. That brings today's webinar to a close. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'm happy to field any questions that you might have now. So please pop those through the chat. There are a couple here. I'm just going to have a quick look. Let's have a look. So we've got, how can you focus senior stakeholders to become truly client-centric? Wow. I think that's probably a long answer for that one. But I would say the best way to do it is to get those senior stakeholders as close to the front line as possible. And, you know, probably the easiest way is for you to get to the front line with those customers, interview them, understand what their frustrations are, and go and talk to the senior stakeholders about it. But the best way to do it would be to get them into the front line and get them to speak to those customers and prospects and really help them understand what the frustrations are. It's only at that point that people will really understand it. Otherwise, it's marketers and customer experience people spouting the same old stuff. And sometimes it just can't cut through. Then there's another one, which is how can we provide clients with the data they want in the format they require in a world where pressures are to standardize? Well, I think that's a very difficult question. I think it's always a question of understanding the value of providing something custom versus whether standardizing is something that the client would accept. But I think we've got to think about creating systems and processes that will provide the ability to customize. I think that's probably the most important thing here. I'm just looking up, we've got another question come in here as well. I'm just going to have a look. No, that looks to be the last question. So unless anybody else has any more questions, oh, hang on. Okay. We do have a question here that I'm going to answer. Okay, so how would we model a sales strategy that is more client-centric? Good question. I think, how do we model a sales strategy? Well, particularly at the moment, a sales strategy has to be value-driven. It really has to be as so far away from sales and feature focus as it's ever been, because as humans, we are repelling anything that screams sales right now. So I think trying to make your approach value-driven, helpful, that's what's going to cut through at the moment. Okay, I've got another question here. In your opinion, which B2B org does digital content the best? Well, I would say, I probably did reference them earlier, and it's actually HubSpot. I think, I became an independent consultant for a few years, and I was using HubSpot's tools to manage a lot of the business that I was doing. And I found their content was absolutely incredible. The way they talked you through how to do things, why you might need their tool in the first place, and then intuitively how to set it up, how to work with it. And then they really understood as a relatively either small to medium business, what were the things that were concerning you, and how to actually manage them with real step-by-step guides to do that. So I would definitely spend some time looking through HubSpot. They're doing a great job. And hopefully that answered your question. I've also got one in here. Could we give a few examples on how we can keep record of customer interactions? Thank you. So I think there's a CRM system, something that most advanced businesses these days will be using. So, I mean, there's a way of automating all the interactions in, I know, certainly within Salesforce Sales Cloud, they're all logged. It's all connected to your email system. So as somebody that's dealing in a new business environment, you don't really need to do much. If a client or a B2B company has gone the next stage and thought about having their client leaders, so if you like, their delivery leads also involved in the CRM systems, then they can also keep a record of the customer interactions in there as well, so they can build preferences and customize the services. So I think it really depends. You know, you've got way up at the anonymous end where you've got new users clicking through on a website. That's about just serving content that's relevant based on what they're doing, but at an anonymous level, right through to, like I just mentioned there, the people that are delivering the work on a daily basis and have the closest relationships with the client, making sure that they're recording their interactions in their systems so that the marketing teams and the account-based marketing teams can work in partnership with them to start doing something off the back of those recommendations. So that, unless anybody else has any more questions, is going to bring this incredibly vibrant discussion to a close. So I would like to thank you all for your time. I hope you all stay very safe and don't go stir crazy in your homes at the moment, and hope that we all return to some kind of normality soon. So thank you all again for your time. Bye-bye.